Welcome to Horror Normal. I'm Kaz Van D. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Horror Normal. This is part 3. Today we are looking at UK's first ever female serial killer. Let's carry on with today's story. Mary Ann Cotton, who murdered 21 people with poison. She was born in Durham County, England, and it has been said that she was about 16 when she left her home and got herself a little job as a nurse. She worked in that department for about 3 years before getting herself a job as a dressmaker. She went on to marry her first husband in 1852, Mr. William Mowbray. They were married for 10 or so years, and in 1856, it was said that William took out an insurance policy for his life, as a lot of people had become ill from suspected gastric fever, a common ailment that has similar symptoms to arsenic poisoning, which we know was a popular method of poisoning back then. And in 1864, Mr. William Mowbray died of gastric fever, and the lives of 2 of their children. It was then Mary decided to leave her remaining daughter in the care of her mother. So she lost her husband and 2 children to gastric fever. So if she didn't poison her first husband, then why did she poison the rest? Or did she? Did we think that she was behind his death and the gastric fever was a clever disguise? With her being a nurse, it wasn't long until she remarried a patient, Mr. George Wall, who subsequently had life insurance. Surprise, surprise, cha-ching-ching, money, money. It was 1865, but that lasted short of a year before he too died from gastric fever. Is there a pattern emerging? Let's read on. By the way, guys, I do all my own research. I go onto various different sites looking at different information. I try to track down any certificates of death, etc., things like that. I try to cross-reference and write things in my own words. But I do hope you are enjoying these stories. I'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. I had to take a quick break then to get a refreshing drink. So let's crack on with the story. I apologise. So she left the hospital to work for a widower, James Robinson, to do housekeeping for him. He had 5 children to look after, and reports state that one of the children died also, you guessed it, gastric fever. The year after Mary's mother was to pass away, and the daughter she had left with her mother went to live with her at the Robinson house. Within 2 years, another 2 of Robinson's children died, and so had Mary's daughter from her marriage from Mr. Mowbray. Mary Ann went on to marry Mr. Robinson between 1867 and 1868. In 1869, Robinson found out that Mary Ann had been stealing from him. Naughty, naughty Mary. She'd been nagging him for years to take out life insurance, and decided he wasn't going to put up with it. Wasn't going to put his life at risk, basically. The stealing everything and the suspicions that he had, why she was being so persistent in him taking out an insurance policy. It was believed that after all of this that he asked her to leave, or she was thrown out, and thus becoming homeless for a while. So poor little Mary, who left home at 16 to become a nurse and a dressmaker and etc., had these husbands and very sad circumstances. A lot of people dying from gastric fever. So now she's homeless. The year after, in 1870, she married a friend's brother, Mr. Frederick Cotton. Hello, Fred. I'm Mary. In the same year, Frederick Cotton lost his sister and his youngest child. That is very sad. In September 1870 was when she married Mr. Cotton, even though by law she was still married to Mr. Robinson, and he had thrown her out. There was no file for divorce. By the end of the following year, 2 more of Cotton's children died, along with Mr. Cotton himself. Okie dokie. Poor Mr. Cotton, 6 feet under, and Mary Ann was said to have received an insurance payout from Mr. Cotton's death. So he was obviously one that she managed to persuade. Finally, she gets her little payout. What does she do? She had some casual relationships. She had one with Joseph Nattrass for a short while until he died in 1872. But their relationship had come to an end before that, and she went on to see another guy called John Quick Manning. When Nattrass died, it was said whatever belongings he had left them to Mary. She said she couldn't marry Quick Manning due to her 7-year-old son, but then said something very, very alarming. Okay, are you ready for this? I won't be burdened by him for long. Was this a future confession? Once the 7-year-old had died, officials reported that after an autopsy it was revealed that he had died of arsenic poisoning. So they decided that they were going to exhume two more of Mary's children who had died and Mr. Cotton himself. All three revealed they had actually died from arsenic poisoning. Not gastric fever, no, arsenic poisoning. Subsequently, Mary Ann Cotton was arrested for the murder of Mr. Charles Cotton in 1873, and while she was in jail, it is said that she gave birth to a baby girl. According to history, Mary Ann over the years had 15 children of her own, and only 2 of those children got to outlive their mother. That she poisoned the other 13, and she was only on trial originally for Charles' murder. And at trial, the defense tried to claim that the deceased Mr. Cotton had accidentally inhaled arsenic dust from a wallpaper dye. You see, in the 1800s, as we've seen with the last 2 cases, arsenic was a very popular substance used in a lot of common household items around that period. But unfortunately for Mary, the prosecution had too much evidence against her, given that her other children had found traces of arsenic in their systems after death, and she was convicted of murder on March the 24th, 1873. So, I did find a quote from, I think, one of the papers that was reporting on Mary's crimes. So I believe it was printed that Mary Ann Cotton, a widow, is in custody at West Auckland, charged with having poisoned her stepson of 8 years. It is said the prisoner, who is comparatively young, has had 3 husbands and 15 children, and that there are as well as 2 lodgers died under her roof. So, apparently murdered. That's a thought. Mary Ann Cotton maintained her innocence, shouting, "I am innocent, I am not guilty, I have been misled." Now, this is a shocker. When it comes to executions, Mary Ann Cotton's was well, it was a bit of a poo show, if you know what I mean. A very, very notorious, clumsy hangman had the job of carrying this through. The trap door was not positioned high enough to break her neck, forcing the executioner to push down on her shoulders. Right? Can you imagine? So, you've been found guilty of murder. You know you're going to die. What is meant to be a swift death turns out to be more painful than expected. But in all honesty, does she deserve to go quietly? Should she have suffered? I mean, poisoning her husband's lovers, her children, and although these are the recorded reports, it has been said that she killed as many as 21 people before facing her own execution. I mean, she did murder her husband, she did murder her children, so I'd say chop off her head. Now, although there have been plenty of heinous women over the years, and dating back before Mary's reported crimes, I'm sure there were other women serial killers, but maybe they never got caught. We looked at Germany's first ever female serial killer, we looked at America's, and now the UK, also shedding light on the world's first ever female serial killer, Gayul Tafana, and to Aqua Tafana poison. Mary Ann never confessed to any of the murders, and therefore she didn't repent in her sins. Was she an evil killer? I will let you decide. Mary Ann Cotton wasn't the only notorious female killer. If you remember hearing of Elizabeth Bathory, who was born again a long time ago. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was around 17th, 18th century. She believed that if she bathed in virgin's blood, it would keep her eternally young. I won't go into it now, but maybe in the future it'd be interesting if we could cover that more into depth. I cannot remember the dates, and I didn't really look it up. I just remember being obsessed with like vampirism and things like that, and Elizabeth Bathory was like mental. Bathing in virgin's blood to stay eternally young. So remember, if you're liking these stories, then please subscribe. Leave a comment if you can. Let me know you're enjoying these. Next time, I'm going to wrap it up with final episodes on female serial killers. Going to take a look back on the last 3. This one before and one before. And talk about some of today's modern day women, female serial killers, you know, from across the globe. And let's try to begin to understand maybe why some of these women behaved in the way that they did, why they thought it was necessary to take these people's lives. You know, will we ever truly know? I do not know. Does the ghosts of these people haunt the jail cells or the execution places where they succumb to their death? Do they haunt these places? Maybe we could look into that in some future episodes. I tell you something, guys, I was in contact with a group called Persuit of the Paranormal. Found them on Insta, but they have a Spotify. They do podcasts, and it was quite coincidental because they were actually covered like Lavina Fisher, and we both use the same intro music. Very bizarre. So I'd like to give a shout out to those guys. Thank you so much for the sub. Thanks for supporting my little channel. It does mean the world to me. I hope to grow in the future. Maybe you guys could help me grow and share out this link. Anybody, please. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to a couple of my besties over in the USA. Michelle Rogers, the Paranormal Experiencer. I love you to death, girl. Go and check out her channel. Please check out the Smith Family Paranormal. They do some awesome episodes, all sorts of stuff over there. Also my friend Lisa, Mr. Wrestler in America. Thank you so much for your constant support. Your friendship and your time means the world to me, and I am truly grateful, so thank you very much. Getting like a little family with people. Leanne McGrath, I hope you don't mind I used your surname, but I want to give you a shout out, and if we just said, hey Leanne, you might not know it's for you. So Leanne McGrath, who we've been chatting to over on Insta as well. Thank you so much for your support. I'm glad that you've been enjoying these. Hopefully they're entertaining as well. I don't want to sit here and be like, she was born in and okay, let's try and make it a little bit entertaining for you guys too. This is Horror Normal. I'm Kaz Van D. Thank you so much. Join me in a couple of weeks' time for part 4, where we wrap everything up. Don't forget, guys, we are going to be looking at UFOs at some point too. I have not forgotten. I have my lovely UFO chart maps here. Peace, blessings, love and light to everybody. And if you're not a Horror Normal fan, why not?